Greetings to us all. Welcome to today's data armory tutorial. And today we are going to learn about what is Python. We all know that there has been a very great interest in programming languages since the COVID period started, and many people found themselves at home and they thought of learning something new or learning about a skill. And one of the skills that people have sought to learn more about is the Python programming language. And maybe you are a beginner, you have got an interest in the Python programming language and you don't know where to start. Then that's why we are here to at least try and introduce what is Python programming language. In today's tutorial, we'll talk about Python. What is Python? And in this tutorial, what are we going to learn? We'll learn about what is Python. We'll also consider why Python programming language. We'll also consider the downside of Python programming language. We'll also look at what Python is used for and why Python is good for data science. So you already see that this tutorial is tailor-made or is cut for someone who has an interest in following the data science path. But that does not mean that Python is only used for data science, because it can also use for web application and many other more uses, because we'll look at that here. So welcome to this tutorial, and we begin with what is Python. We know when we mention the word Python, you are about to think of Python the snake, but that is not what you're talking about. Talking about Python the programming language. So Python is a programming language that allows one to work more quickly and integrate their systems more easily. So from that definition alone, we have found that we are talking about the programming language, not Python the snake. So if you are seeking to know more about Python the programming language, then already we know that it's a programming language that allows one to work more quickly and integrate their systems more easily. Now, according to Al-Sway Gat, he is an author who has written a book called the Automating the Boring Stuff, which teaches on Python. He says that Python is a language with syntax rules for writing what is deemed as valid Python code, and the Python interpreter, which goes ahead to read the source code which has been written in Python language and goes on to perform its functions. Now that you've mentioned about Python being a programming language, it is interesting to know that there are over 250 programming languages in the world. And from that fact alone, you can see that one will wish to know why pick on Python. What makes it stand out of the 250 programming languages that are there across the world? I know to many, when we talk about programming languages, many maybe have thought of 4, maybe Python, Java, JavaScript, C++. But there are many programming languages, about 250 programming languages. So what makes Python stand out? That is what we'll also consider in this introduction to Python. But a fun fact is that the name Python does not come from the snake. And that's why we're not talking about Python the snake. We're talking about Python the programming language. It comes from a British comedy group that was called Monty Python. And one thing that we have stressed time and again in these tutorials, that it is always important to go to the official websites of these tools or of these programming languages and try to understand, because you find that most of what we seek outside there is already found in their documentations or in their website. For example, if we look at this fun fact, why is it called Python? If you go to their FAQs, it says here, it answers the question, why is it called Python? When he began implementing Python, that is Guido van Rossum, was also reading the published scripts from Monty Python's Flying Circus, a BBC comedy series from the 1970s. Van Rossum thought he needed a name that was short, unique, and slightly mysterious, so he decided to call the language Python. So from here we can get where the name Python comes from. It is from a British comedy group. That is where we get the name Python. Now, so from the fun fact, we can see where the name Python comes from. It comes from a comedy group and not from Python the snake. Then why Python? Why should I learn Python? Or why are you interested to learn Python? Or if you are confused on which language to choose and you have decided to follow maybe the data science route, why Python? Because you know that there are other languages that are also tailor-made more so for data science path, like R, programming language. But out of these that are tailor-made for data science, and here we are talking about someone who has chosen the data science path, why Python? Python, because Python is a language that is easy to pick, understand, and remember, and more so for beginners, that is first-time programmers. So if you're a beginner and you are caught between two opinions on which one do I go for, then Python is an option that you can consider because it is easy to pick, understand, and remember, and more so for beginners. The simplicity does not in any way limit the functional possibilities of the language, because someone might think that if it is simple, then it means that it has got a limited functional possibilities. But we see here that the possibility, the simplicity does not in any way limit the functional possibilities of this Python programming language. Another reason is that it is also efficient in that it enables programs to achieve more with a few lines of codes compared to other languages. Remember, we have said there are over 250 programming languages, and one thing that makes this stand out is that it is also efficient in that it enables programs to achieve more with a few lines of code. Then again, it is also essential in that one writes codes that is easy to read and also easy to debug. Its readability means that it is easily usable and maintainable. When you enter the programming field, some of the things that you'll have to do a lot is to read other people's code and also to maintain them. And this is where now Python comes with as a strength, or this is where it has a plus, that when we'll be reading other people's codes, or when you'll be maintaining codes, then if you are maintaining a Python code, we get that it will be easily reusable and maintainable. We have said that it's also essential to know that it is also easy to debug. Now, for someone who is just getting into this field, debugging means identifying and removing errors in a code. Another thing is that Python has become very popular, and that means that it has got a very large community. When we say a large community, is that there are a lot of people who are using this program. So if you need help somewhere, then there are tons of resources whereby you can find solutions to what you need. Above most of the reasons for its use, the quality and productivity of the code sets it apart from the rest. But also let us mention the downside of Python, though we know maybe from the documentations, maybe they'll not mention that, but from user case scenarios, those who have used it in one point or another, it might be more than one, it might be, but you have not, will not mention all of them, you can go and find out, is that something that has been mentioned oftenly as a downside is the execution speed of Python. That is when compared to other languages like C and C++, so the execution speed, but you can go and find out if there are other downsides. But for data science, we still recommend it. More so, based on this, a very large community, more so for beginners, a very large community, tons and tons of resources are outside there for someone who is learning how to use Python. Now, what is Python used for? Now we say that its simplicity does not limit its functional ability. So if you can see what is Python used for, and if you go and find out where it has been used, then you can see the importance and the strength of this programming language. Python is used to make games, build web applications, and it is also used for academic research and applied work. Another use is that it can also be used to automate tasks, perform calculations, among many other uses. Talking about automation of tasks, then an example can be renaming and rearranging a bunch of photo profiles. So it's always important to automate some of the little tasks that you have here and there. And Python does that a great deal. Now again, it will be essential to note that though Python is used in calculations, one does not need to be a genius in maths for them to be a good programmer, for them to be good programmers. You don't need to be a genius. When we say you don't need to be a genius, we don't completely kick out maths. And more so when you want to grow into the machine learning field and data science field, at least you'll have to have some background, some skeleton of of maths, and you'll have to have some skeleton of statistic also. So when we say that one needs not to be a genius, does not completely put out math. At least you'll need it at one point or another, and more so when you'll pursue the machine learning and data science route and data analytics path. Now, again, why is Python good for data science? And that is, we have tried to narrow down on the data science use of Python, is that the popularity of Python makes it have a lot of libraries, and most of these libraries are geared towards data analytics and machine learning. Examples of this are pandas, numpy, skippy, among many others. You can go and find them. So that is Python, and we say that it has got a large community. There are tons of books, there are tons of web resources whereby you can go and learn about it, but always try to use the documentation. This is the official website. You can always get the documentation here of Python and try to learn about it. Some of the resources that we have used, of which we'll take time and do a review of some of these resources for someone maybe who is a beginner. There's this book, Automating the Boring Stuff by Al Swigert. This is it on Amazon. This is how it looks. Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. A very nice book for beginners. There's also another book. This is the Python Crash Course, a hands-on project-based introduction to programming. A very nice book also for someone who is seeking to understand and learn about Python. There's also this learning Python, which takes you from the beginner level and even to the more advanced stages of Python. But we'll create time and do a review of these books one by one and let you know why they are good books. So that has been our tutorial today, whereby we have learned about what Python is, why Python, the downside of Python, what is Python used for, why Python is good for data science. In the other tutorials, we'll be getting into how to download the Python, and we'll get into coding and teach ourselves how to code with Python programming language. So that has been our study. Let us meet in the next tutorial.